Hello everyone, welcome back to the series. This is episode 11 of building a chat app in C from scratch. In the last episode, we handled client disconnection is within our chat server. Today, we're gonna be making it so that our messages within our chat application are scrollable. So if we send or receive messages that are not visible on the screen, it will automatically scroll through each message. So if we do, for example, hello, how are you, test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Notice the rest of the messages are not visible, guys, even though our chat application received or sent those messages. So today we're gonna be making it so that our messages are scrollable so that we solve that issue within our chat application. So don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and let's dive right in. Alright guys, so let's get started. So I'm gonna be working in WSL today, Windows subsystem for Linux. So I'm just gonna clone the Git repository for the chat application. So let me just write git clone. Right, let's wait on that to clone real quick. Alright, so it's successfully cloned, and let's navigate into our chat app folder. And let's open up our app.c. Alright, so currently we're using our message list data structure that we implemented to render our messages. Let's look at the way how we defined that data structure. So vim message list def.h. So we can see this is our message list data type. We're gonna need to make it so that we can scroll through messages whenever they are not visible, or automatically scroll whenever we receive messages from a particular user on our server. So we're gonna introduce a new data type to our message list data structure. So it's gonna be let's make it be a size t render pos. So we're gonna have a render position. Let's open up our message list.c file, and this is our message list display function. And currently this is how we're rendering each items. If you notice, we start at index position 0 from our message list. So we're gonna change this 0 to our message list render position, which will be the position which we'll start rendering our messages from. Let's also introduce a new member to our message list structure. It will be a SDL-rect viewport, and that viewport will essentially be where we will render it. It will be like a box or container that we render our messages inside of, right? And that viewport, whenever we set our canvas X and our canvas Y right here, we'll do a check right here, and we'll say for canvas Y, let's say plus or canvas height is greater than or message list viewport.y plus or message list viewport.height. And then we'll essentially do a break right here. And that will be it. So now guys, let's make it so that our messages automatically scroll. So let's introduce a new function to our message list. Let's cd into chat up, and let's open up our message list.h. We'll introduce a new function called, let's make it a void message list perform scroll, and it will accept a up t pointer up, and it will accept a message list t message list. Alright, so now let's introduce a, so we introduce that new function. So let's actually define it. So let's define a void message list underscore perform scroll up underscore t pointer up message list t pointer message list, and it will essentially do a check, right? So here's how our messages will be on the screen. So each time we append a message or add a message to our message list, we need to do a check or comparison to see if our last message is greater than our viewport that we introduced to our message list data structure. So we'll do a check up here and we'll say if up, yeah, we'll say if let's see, yeah, we'll say if, so we'll need to get to our last message. So we'll have a message underscore t pointer, let's just call it last message, and it will be equal to our message list messages. Right, so messages at index message list message count -1, and then we'll need to also get our last canvas for that last message. So we'll have a SDL rect pointer last canvas, which will be equal to our last message canvas, and we'll say if our last canvas and our last canvas y plus our last canvas height. Oh, this should be last underscore. Canvas height is greater than our message list dot viewport. Oh, this should be message list viewport dot y plus or viewport dot height. Then we will need to increase our message list render position. Now here's the thing, guys. We need to ensure that our messages are not equal to null, is not equal to null, right? So we'll do a check up here and we'll see if not message list messages, then we'll just return from our function, and then we can just get to our last message down here. And then we can get to our last canvas. So we don't even need to do a check here anymore. And we can actually simplify this viewport thing, guys. So we could have a viewport equal to our message list viewport, and then we can just do our viewport.y and our viewport.height. Then we can increase our message list render position, and that will allow us to automatically scroll whenever we receive a message. So let's actually test this out now, guys. First, we'll need to set our viewport for our message list. Let's introduce another function to our message list, which will allow us to set our viewport. So we'll have a void message list set viewport message list t pointer message list, and it will accept a sdlrect viewport, and it will just do message list viewport equals to our viewport that we pass in. And let's actually put that prototype within our message list.h. So then message list.h, and we'll place that viewport function. So void message list set viewport message list t pointer message list, and it will accept a sdlrect viewport. Right. And that is our set viewport function, guys. So, if you guys remember, we have a header that we defined. So we'll need to do a calculation to figure out our viewport so that we can set our viewport. So this is our start y, and we initialize our input box right here. We also set our input box position down here. So we could essentially subtract our y position from our input box from our start y, which is our header, and then we could get the distance between our header and the input box. So that way we can calculate our viewport size. So let's define a sdlrect down here, and we'll call it viewport, and we'll do a dot x equal to 0 we'll do a dot y equals to our start y, and we'll do a dot width equals to the width of our window. So this should be up width, or up width, and then the height of our viewport will essentially be our up input box dot canvas dot y minus our start y. So now we can call our message list set viewport, and we can pass in a pointer to our up message list, and we can pass in our viewport. And let's move this thing down here. Okay, let me just copy this. And I'll just paste it right here. So now that we calculated our viewport, guys, so now what we need to do is call our message list underscore perform scroll function, which accepts our up and then our up message list. And let's try to compile our code. So let's cd into our chat up. Let's cd into our chat server. And let's do a chmod plus x build.sh. And let's run our build script for our server. And now let's try to test out our application. Let's do a chmod plus x build.sh, and let's execute our build.sh right here. And let's wait on that to build. So we have an error at line 55 in our message list.c. Let's go to line 55. Message list messages. The error is use incompatible types. Oh, this is our messages list. Messages. Oh, so we need to pass this in as a reference. So this should be ampersand. And now we can try to recompile our code. At line 57. So this is our last message, canvas. This should be ampersand. And now we can recompile our code. Let's wait on that to build. Alright, so it built successfully. Alright, now let's execute another window. Right. So now we have these two windows, and let's try to send a bunch of messages to see if it automatically scrolls. So we can say hello, how are you, test 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and you guys can actually see it is automatically scrolling. I notice whenever we hit enter on our keyboard on an empty message, our program crashes and gives a segmentation fault. Let's try to fix that. And that's because whenever we're handling enter, the enter key, we need to validate that our input box is not empty. So we can do a check right here before actually sending a message. We can say if up input box dot data, then we can do this stuff. Let's indent all of this. And now let's try to recompile our code. Let's try to press enter. Alright, so we've fixed the crash now, guys. Alright, so we implemented auto scrolling whenever we receive a message. So let's now implement the ability to scroll with our mouse. So let's navigate to our up.h header file. Begin to shut up. And let's do vim up.h. Alright, so we'll introduce some new properties to our up.h, to our up structure, I mean. We'll introduce a mouse X and a mouse Y to our structure, which will keep track of our mouse position. We'll introduce a Boolean flag for scroll, so bool scroll. Yeah, and that should be it. So in SDL, guys, there are some events like event.wheel. So we have SDL mouse wheel events. If we type SDL mouse wheel, we can check the SDL documentation and it shows our SDL mouse wheel event. So you guys can see the event type is SDL underscore mouse wheel, and it has a X position, a Y position, which tells us if we scrolled up or we scrolled down. So it's positive away from the user and negative towards the user. So let's actually use this mouse wheel event so that we can get mouse stuff. So here's the thing too, guys. We're gonna need to keep track of our mouse X and our mouse Y. So let's do a check right here. We'll say else if up event.type equals to SDL mouse motion. That's another event in SDL that stores the X and Y position whenever we move our mouse within a window. So we can get our up, we can set our up mouse X equal to our up event.motion.x. Yeah, we can also Google this structure. So it's SDL mouse motion, and it contains a X on the Y position, right? So that's what we're doing right here. So we can set our up mouse Y equal to our up event.motion.y. And let's do it for our mouse wheel event now. So whenever we try to scroll with our mouse, we can detect it. So we can say as if up event.type is equal to SDL mouse wheel. Then we can do something like printf detected scroll event. And we can do a checkup here. We can say up event.wheel.y. So the documentation says the Y position is the amount scrolled vertically positive away from the user and negative towards the user. So if we can do a check and say if event.wheel.y is, let's say, less than 0, that means we're scrolling downward. So we can do a printf scrolling down. And we can also do a check here. If up event.wheel.y is greater than 0, then we can do printf scrolling up. And let's test it out. So let's try to build our script. Alright, so we can try to scroll, and you guys can see in the console it's printing detected scroll event. Let me scroll. So it says scrolling down, detected scroll event. If we try to scroll up, it also detects the scroll up event. Yeah, and it detects the scroll down event. So let's go back to our up.h, and we'll introduce a new integer. Let's just call it int scroll type, and we'll define a enum up here. So enum, let's just call it up scroll type, and it will contain a up scroll up event and a up scroll down event. So then whenever we're doing a scroll down event, we'll essentially set our up scroll type equal to our up underscore scroll down event. And then if we're doing a scroll up event, we'll set our up scroll type equal to our up scroll up event. Oh, I accidentally deleted that. Yeah, and that should be it. So let's try to handle those scroll events now, guys. So let's go back to our perform scroll function. So we only want to scroll, guys, whenever we are hovering over the viewport or a portion of the screen that we want to scroll at. So we'll introduce some new functions to our up, which will allow us to detect if we're hovering over a rectangle or whatever we're hovering over. So let's create those functions. Let's create a bool up underscore rect hover, and it will accept a up t pointer up. It will also accept a SDL rect to a rectangle. Now let's make it so that we can detect if we're hovering horizontally or vertically. Let's create two more functions. Let's make a bool up rect underscore hover horizontal up underscore t pointer up. And let's also create another one for detecting vertically as well. And it will accept a SDL rect, and SDL rect right here as well. So essentially what we'll do for detecting it horizontally is check our x-axis. So we'll do a return if upmost x is less than or equal to our rect.x plus or rect.width, and or upmost x is greater than or equal to our rect.x. Then we'll just return true, otherwise we'll return false, and we'll do a similar thing to our vertical function, except we'll just do it for our y-axis. So this should be mouse y, and this should be dot height, this should be mouse y, and this should be rect.y. And then we can do our rect hover function now, which will essentially just do a return up rect underscore hover horizontal, and it will accept a up, and then it will accept a rect, and we'll say and up rect underscore hover vertical up rect. So that way, guys, we can detect whether we hover both horizontally and vertically. So now we have that up rect underscore hover function. So let's actually use it. So in our message list perform scroll function, we're just gonna do a check. We're gonna see if not up rect underscore hover, and we'll say up message list. Oh, we could just pass in our viewport just like that. Then we could just return. And then we could do a check. Now we could say if up scroll, or if not, let's do a check up here before we'll say if not up scroll, because whenever we're handling a scroll event in our event loop, guys, we're supposed to set our scroll flag within our up structure to true. So we can't forget to do that. So let's do a up scroll equal to true. And then we can go back here in our perform scroll function. So if our up, if we're not scrolling within our up, we'll just do a return. And at the end of our function, we'll just do a up scroll equal to false. And if we're not hovering over our viewport whenever we perform the scroll, then we'll just return. And now we can actually do the actual scrolling operation, guys. So we'll do a... So let's think about how we'll do this. So we'll say we'll need to get our last render index, and we'll need to check whether the last item that we're rendering is greater than the viewport starting position plus the viewport height. So if it's greater than our viewport, then we'll essentially because we need to be able to scroll up, and we also need to be able to scroll down. And here's what we can't forget as well, guys. Whenever we're trying to scroll upwards, we cannot just increase our render position. We need to first detect if we performed a scrolling operation, right? So here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. So we'll introduce a scrolled flag to our message list structure. Let's go here and we'll introduce a bool. Yeah, we'll introduce a bool scrolled, and we'll set it. So whenever we perform a scrolling operation like going upwards, we'll essentially set it equal to true. And if we do a scroll down event, we'll set it equal to false. But that will be only if we reach the last render index or the last message count. So let's do that. We'll say if up, let's see. So we'll say if up scroll type is equal to up scroll down. So this will be for our scroll down event. We'll do say and or end render position is less than or message list message count minus 1. So we'll need to do a find our end render position. So let's define a size t up here. We'll just call it end render position, and we'll set it equal to our message list message count minus 1. We'll then define a loop. So we'll say for size ti equals to our message list render pos is less than or message list message count I plus plus. Then we'll just say if our message list messages at index I dot y plus our message list messages at index i.height is greater than our message list viewport. Oh, we already got the viewport up here, so we can just do viewport.y plus viewport.height. And then we can just break right here. And that will be it. Oh, we also need to modify our end render position so that we point to the last visible element. So we set our end render position equal to I. And that will be it. So first we set our end render position is equal to our last message index, and then we set our end render position equal to I, which will be the last visible element that is inside of the viewport. So now we can check if we have a scroll down event. We can say if end render pos is less than or message list message count minus 1, then we can just increase our message list render position by 1. And we could do a check. So whenever we scroll up, no, we'll just say else if up scroll type is equal to up scroll up and or message list render position is greater than 0, then we'll decrement our message list render position by 1. We'll then say message list scroll equal to true right here. We'll need to also reset our scrolled flag back to false, guys, because we're gonna check it up here so that we don't automatically scroll meanwhile we are trying to scroll through the previous messages. So we'll just say if message list render pos is equal to message list message count minus, no, we'll just say if message list and render pos is equal to our message list count message count minus 1, then we will essentially set our message list scrolled equal to false, and that will be it. So we'll need to ensure that we check our message list scrolled up here. So if not message list scrolled, then we will do that. Alright, so let's test out our application now, guys. So we have an error at line 65. Oh, and that's because we never modified the header file for our app.h. So let's modify that and create those prototypes. So we need to have a void uprect underscore hover, which will accept a up t pointer up, and it will also accept a SDL rect. And we also have some other functions as well. So we have one for horizontal and vertical. So let's just paste this in. And this should be vertical. Yeah, let's make this vertical. And that should be it. So now let's try to recompile our code. And we have an error at line. Oh, that means we missed a semicolon somewhere. So we missed a semicolon within our up.h. So now we can recompile our code. And we have another error, conflicting type uprect underscore over. Oh, this is a void at line 45. Oh, this should be a bool. Yeah, all of them should be bool. So now we can recompile our code. And let's see if it works. We have another error at line 70 within our message list.c. Oh, this should be end underscore render puz. This should be end underscore render puz. And let's try to recompile our code one more time. Right, we'll have another error at line has no member named y, and that's at line 70. So this should be .canvas. This should be .canvas. And let's try to recompile our code one more time. Alright, so we have one more error at line 70. Well, this should be messages, not message. Right, so we have one last error. Oh, that's at line number 80. This should be end render puz. And let's try to recompile our code. Alright, so it successfully compiled. Let's try to execute another instance of our application. Right. And let's try to send some messages. So we could send hello, test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's try to scroll. Right, so we're able to scroll, guys, through our messages. So the last message we sent was 10, but for some reason it stopped scrolling there. Let's try to see what that issue is. So we check to see for render pos. It's less than our message list. Message count -1. Then we increment our message list render position. Alright, so we're able to scroll right through each messages except that last one. Alright, this should be message count. And let's see what happens. So if we rebuild our script, and then we try to execute another instance. Alright, let's test this out. So we could say, hello, how are you today? I am doing great. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's try to scroll. Right, it works. Now let's try to send a message and see if it will still scroll. So if I send something like F, it doesn't scroll. But if I scroll down, it receives that message. If I send D, does it get that? Yes, it does. A. Right, so it works. Let's introduce a scroll bar within our application now, guys. So a scroll bar is pretty simple. So let's just create another rectangle, and let's just call it so SDL rect scroll bar, and it will set the X equal to the viewport dot width minus the scroll bar width. We'll set the Y equal to the viewport dot Y. We'll set the width equal to the scroll bar width, and we'll set the height equal to the scroll bar height. Let's define the scroll bar height up here. So we'll have a int scroll bar width. We'll set it equal to 50. We'll have a scroll bar height. We'll set it to 100. And let's define a SDL color for our scroll bar color, and we'll just make it be let's see, blocked for now, and we'll try to render our scroll bar now, guys. So we'll do a SDL set render draw color up render color underscore 2 param. Then we'll pass in our scroll bar color, and we'll say SDL render draw rect up render ampersand scroll bar SDL render fill rect up render ampersand scroll bar, and let's see. So we'll need to do a simple percentage calculation, guys, because we'll need to set our scroll bar position whenever we're scrolling with our mouse. So here's what we're gonna do. So this is where we're setting our X. So right where we're performing our scroll, let's define a int. Alright, let's do a comment right here. Render the scroll bar. So we'll have a int down here, and we'll call it, let's just call it percentage. So we'll figure out how much percentage we have scrolled to. So we'll simply get our up message list render position, and let's make this a double, because we'll need to do floating point stuff, and we'll just cast this to a double, and we'll divide it by our up message list count. We'll also have a double, let's just call it so this is our percentage. So we'll need to do a check right here, guys. We'll need to say, because we don't want to have any zero division errors, so we'll do a check right here. We'll say if up message list, meaning our message list is not empty, then we will do the division here, and then we'll get the percentage. So we calculate the percentage, and then we'll get the percentage of the viewport. So we'll just say, let's call it double percentage off, and it will be equal to our viewport dot let's see, viewport dot y plus our viewport dot height and then we'll need to subtract the scroll bar height from it. So we'll say minus scroll bar height, and we'll simply multiply that by the percentage, and then we'll simply increase our scroll bar y. So we'll say scroll bar dot y plus equal to our percentage of. So we'll cast this to a int percentage of, and that will be our scroll bar. So let's test out our application to see if it shows our scroll bar. Alright, so we have an error at line 213. Where we say if up message list invalid type argument that's at line 214. So this is our message list. This should be .renderPos. This should be .messageCount. And now we can try to recompile. Use struct value where scalar is required. I see. Well, this should be dot messages, and then we can just recompile our code. Alright, so you guys can see our scroll bar is right here. It's kinda big though. Alright, so let's try to send some. Let's execute another instance of our application real quick. And we'll try to send a message. So we'll send hello. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you guys can see the scroll bar is moving. Right, it's moving. Cool. So our scroll bar is working fine. Cool. Wait, let's make this be the viewport.height minus our scroll bar height. That way it doesn't our scroll bar doesn't go off screen. So if we execute another instance, let's try to say test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, right, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Alright, so it is literally working, guys. Alright, this isn't supposed to happen. Whenever we scroll down, we're not supposed to be able to scroll past the last message, so let's try to fix that real quick. So let's go to our perform scroll function, and let's see. So we check if our end render position is less than our message list count. Then we increment our render position. We say if end render pos is equal to our message list message count minus 1 because let's do this check above here. Let's see something. And hold on, so we check if it's less than our message count minus 1. This should be message count minus 1. So let's try to recompile our code and let's see what happens. Right, let's execute another instance. So if we say hello, let's try to do something like 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. Right, so it's scrolling. So let's try to scroll. Alright, so it stops now. If we try to scroll up, then we scroll back down. Alright, let's do a this is the last message. Let's press enter. Alright, so this one got that message. Let's try to scroll down. Alright, so it works. Let's try to say test 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's try to scroll up. And let's try to send that message. Right, so this one, let's try to scroll down. Alright, so it received that message. And if we try to scroll down, it doesn't allow us to scroll any further. So alright guys, let's get rid of this header thing that we have within our chat application. So let's go in our up.c. We'll get rid of this header thing. Let's just delete all of these things associated with our header. Yeah, we don't need that. And this is where we're rendering the header. We don't need that anymore. Where are we copying the render, the header? Oh, we need to get rid of that. So this is where we have this header thing. Let's make the start y be 0. No. And yeah, we got rid of this header. Let's try to recompile our code. /build.sh. Alright, so let's try sending hello. Alright, so now we have this message up the top there now, guys. Let's change the background color for our window now. So let's go in our upconfig.h :vs upconfig.h. We'll change our, we don't need this header text thing anymore. Don't need anything associated with that, the header. So this is our window color. Let's change it to something else, like 0x121212. And let's recompile our program. Okay, let's wait on that to build. Alright, so now we have this dark window. So if we send hello, right, it displays there. Alright, cool. Let's change our start Y thing. Let's go back to our up.c. Where did we have that start Y? Let's make the start Y be equal to 1 and the viewport Y be equal to 0. Then we can essentially rebuild our script. So we can send hello. Right, looks pretty good. Alright, let's check this out real quick. Let's run another instance of our application. Alright, so if I send hello, how are you today? And then we can reply, doing great. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, we can try to scroll up. Scroll down, and everything is working. Alright guys, so this will be it for today's video. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. So in the next episode, guys, we'll be implementing our authentication system. We'll be implementing user authentication. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.